on? Welcome back to the Savour Success podcast. I'm your host, Kieron Moran, and this is episode 7. And today we've got something extra sweet for you in store today. I'm really excited about our next guest, someone who's been shaking up a traditional industry with fresh ideas and bold flavours. His name is Kieron Moran, and he is one of the masterminds behind Moran's Mega Jams. Now, what makes Kieron's story so interesting is that he didn't start out in jams. He was an executive chef, and from those early days in the kitchen, he knew that food would always be at the heart of his journey. Using his experience as a chef and his creative touch, Kieron took his love for fresh, homegrown ingredients and launched with his co-founder a small jam company at farmers markets. Fast forward today, and he is on a mission to bring his unique, flavor-packed jams and condiments to the tables around the world. In this episode, we dive into Kieron's early days as a chef, his commitment to sourcing high-quality local ingredients, and how he's been able to innovate flavors while staying rooted in tradition. We also talk about the persistence it takes to grow a food brand. We talk about Dragon's Den and how Kieron infuses tradition into every single batch of jam. So, without further ado, here's my conversation with the one and only Kieron Moran, co-founder of Moran's Mega Jam. Let's get started. Hey everybody, we are back, and today I'm absolutely delighted to bring on someone I've known for many years now, from first seeing them on Dragon's Den, Super Value Food Academy, Kieron Moran of Moran's Jams. Thanks, Kieron, for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
No bother. Happy to do it.
Fantastic. So let's jump straight in, Kieron. Let's tell everyone and the listeners here about your journey and what got you started into Moran's Jams.
So Moran's Mega Jam, we're a quirky jam chutney company. That was what we originally started off with. We now make a range of pestos and sauces that we've added in since lockdown. There were some new products that we added in then. But we started back in 2010 at the farmers market. And what originally happened was I had taken over my dad's business in Dublin, which was a completely different field. It meant that I was finished work every day by about 2 o'clock. I was no longer working weekends as an executive head chef running 3 different hotels. And my wife and business partner, Claire, she was running 3 different restaurants as well for another company. And my dad said, look, it's this time of your life. You need to slow down a little bit. Come and work for me. So we packed up sticks from Galway and we bought a house here in Cavan. And it's because I was finished every day at 2 o'clock. Claire said, why don't you go and start off at the farmers market? Just go down and do that as a hobby on a Saturday. So we did. So we made lovely little desserts and stuff like that as well, and we were selling them, but the jams is what took over. And so because we make quirky flavours like blackcurrant and Guinness and strawberry and bubblegum were some of the original ones that we did, as well as the traditional ones, we had these quirky ones. People just loved it, and the jams, over a couple of weeks, the jams took over and the pastries sort of slid away. And that was great for me because it meant that if we were making jams, if I didn't sell them this week, I could sell them next week, unlike the pastries where if they didn't sell today, they were fed to the chickens at home. That's all that happened to them. And a chance meeting with a local supermarket manager, he came along to the farmers market. He said, look, I love what you're doing with these quirky flavours, but your packaging is, well, he said it wasn't great. Now, he wasn't that polite about it, but he said, look, the packaging was awful. And Claire had spent all night printing these labels. In those days, we used to print 3 labels on the home printer. So we had one for the front, one for the back. And then once we started supplying stores, we had a barcode on it. And when I look back at them now from 14 years ago, I think, how in the name of God did we manage to sell jars of jam that looked like that? And he said, look, I think you're onto something. And I said, well, who the hell are you? He said, look, I owned a couple of supermarkets, come into the store on Monday, have a chat, and I think you're onto something. And I said, all right, so you're sort of, along my wavelength. And we popped along to the store. And he said, well, what do you envision? And I said, well, I can't understand why there's not farmers market quality jams and chutneys in the supermarket. They're all the mass-produced ones. Is there a market? And he said, actually, yeah, I think there could be. He said, look, you need to have barcodes. You'll need to have proper labels. You'll need to be able to tell your story on the packaging and still keep it looking homemade and as Irish as possible. So he said, go off, get your labels redesigned. And if you can do that, I'll give you a space in the store. And that's literally how it turned into a business. And so we went off, we changed the labels. We went to a designer, a local guy called Anthony Quinn, creative. He's been our designer for still today. He's brilliant. He pulls ideas out of my head. So I give him a vision of where I am, what I want something to look like, and he goes off and takes that madness and turns it into something arty. And so we went back to the supermarket manager, and he said, yeah, or the owner, he said, look, I love the new labels. Have you got a wooden stand? I was like, oh no, I have to go get a stand now. So we went off, got a stand, came back, and he said, perfect. And the following week, I had 33 super values. Literally overnight, that was it, you know. And that was our break into retail. We'd never thought about it becoming a business. We had never decided yet, look, we're going to start selling jam and we're going to sell it to supermarkets. It wasn't something that we had planned. It was just a hobby that happened to turn into a business. And it's sort of grown from that point.
Because you have a background as an executive chef, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that's really helped you develop your recipes? Because a lot of people, they start with the product, they have no experience in the industry beforehand, but you've had years of experience. How has
Yeah.
that helped you kind of grow your business, develop the recipes, and learn from there?
Yeah, well, see, I was lucky that the hotels that I actually worked in, that we made everything fresh. So, like, we were making jams and chutneys in there. We were even, like, all our sauces were all made fresh. We had big stock pots. We were still making demi-glaze, you know, fresh sauces all the way. Everything was made fresh to order. And even, like, down to chips were still being cut by hand. So that shows you the sort of background that I had in food.
That's the real way to do things.
Yeah, it's a real way. But like I've been cooking since I was about 12. And
Yeah.
like not many people know at 12 what they're going to be. But at 12 I knew I was going to be a chef. By the time I was 14, I could already cook meals for the whole family. Oh, and by the time I was 16, I was already working in restaurants and hotels. Claire, very, very similar, that she came from a catering background, working in a little restaurant in Ardra in Donegal, where she's from, and her career just went on from there. And the two of us actually went to college together but didn't know each other, even though we were in the same college. So it goes to show you, it's years later that we ended up working together in a restaurant, and she was the restaurant manager and she's been my boss ever since. So that just worked out that way.
That's amazing to see the serendipitous effect of it all. You know, you've always wanted to be involved in food of some shape or form. And I can imagine, let's say, when you started Moran's Jams down from the farmer's market, you would have gotten into food eventually, because I see from the products line that you have, the flavors that you have, which we'll touch on now, it's like bubblegum and strawberry, prosecco, Malibu and pineapple. I'm a man for food innovation, and that's peak innovation, you know, because I always think in the 90s and early 2000s, we were so traditional about the way we created food, but now it leaves room for the likes of yourselves to innovate. So, how you guys come up with the flavors, yourself and Claire, how you guys build the flavors from there.
Yeah, so it starts off with the raw ingredients, and we'd have about 400 different producers who are supplying into my business now, who are all growing for us. Some of them are major big growers here, like I say Fairy Hill Farm, who supply me with the bulk of me beetroots, say most of the year round, and other stuff. But we would have lots of smaller producers who are growing maybe 10 or 20 kilos of gooseberries or plums or raspberries or strawberries, wherever it is. And they come here and we give them a price on the day, and they know that they're getting paid on the day when they deliver. So I get the best possible product. So
Yeah.
that's really for us where it starts. And most of it is women. So you would have the husbands tend to be dairy farmers, and the wives of them tend to be growing the rhubarb and the gooseberries and whatever else. And it's easy money for them. They don't have to do a huge amount of work with it. Some stuff is very labor intensive, like raspberries or something, or strawberries, quite labor intensive. But rhubarb, beetroots, onions grows easy. Stick it in the ground, you look after it, and it comes on. But that's for where the innovation starts. And so I hate making strawberry jam. It's still one of our best sellers, but if I never had to make another jar of strawberry jam again, it would be too soon. So I always try to make something that entertains me as well and keeps that passion alive for food. So like
Yeah.
I grew up and worked in a pub, in my uncle's pub in Dublin, and say blackcurrant and Guinness. The ladies would come in and have a glass of Guinness with a drop of blackcurrant poured into it to sweeten it. And so
That's
I
a great
knew
touch.
that that was going to work if I reverse engineered it. Or
Yeah.
pineapple and Malibu. It turns out I was on holidays with Claire having a pina colada cocktail, and as a joke said to Claire, I think that'd actually make a great jam if we could actually recreate that flavour, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's where these things come from. And sometimes I get inspired by the weirdest of things. We're actually working on a brand new product at the moment, and it came from Jaffa Cakes. My brother eats Jaffa Cakes. He doesn't eat anything else sweet. And Jaffa Cakes released a cola flavoured Jaffa Cake. And he said to me, "Do you make can cola be turned into jam?" And I said, "Well, not really, because it's a syrup, and it when you boil it, it doesn't really have an awful lot of flavour left out of it. But we've actually invented now a new cherry cola jam, which we'll be releasing in the next couple of weeks. But like all of the products come from little stories like that, where we get inspired, or I would taste something in somebody else's restaurant and something would click.
The light bulb goes off.
You know, that could work as a jam if we did this to it or we added that to it. And I love collaborations. So we work with a lot of other producers as well that use my jam in their products, and we've often incorporated their products into some of the stuff that we do.
Yeah.
One of the latest ones was lemon and elderflower. We use a girl out the road, Mary Ellen Cordials, and we use that to flavour the elderflower into the lemon and elderflower marmalade. And it's those little things that, you know, you're talking to producers when you're on the circuit, doing shows around the country, and they're the sort of things that inspire you. You ask them what goes into theirs, they're saying what goes into your product, and you're able to collaborate that way.
And that's what I love to hear, is the fact is the innovation is so rampant in Moran's jams. It's because, you know, anyone can do, as you said, the strawberry jams and just do mass produce, and that's that, you know. But the big guys out there can't replicate what's in your head. You know, those divine moments of inspiration, you know, when you're tasting a pina colada on the beach and you're like, that could be a good flavor. So that's what I think separates the smaller producers from the bigger. They're not in your head, so it's all about how you execute from there, and innovation is what's going to separate you from everybody else. And I see you guys have pestos now and sauces, so I'd love for you to touch on that, how you went from jams to these artisan sauces now.
Just to go back on the big producers, they're sort of limited sometimes because they're so big that they have to stick to what they're doing, but we're small enough to be able to still sell to the big companies, but we're also able to turn it around really quickly. If somebody came to me and said, look, I need 1,000 jars of something, we can do it. It's like we still make it in a pot with a wooden spoon and still fill every single jar by hand. And that's the same even if we're supplying to Lidl and Aldi, who buy huge volumes of stuff. We're still doing it all by hand. So we stay true to what we do, you know, so we never change that. So lockdown for an awful lot of people, you know, really was difficult here in Ireland. And for us, we lost 75% of our business overnight. We had sort of got away from retail a little bit and gone more into food service. So we're doing buckets of jam and tubs of chutneys and pestos. And obviously when restaurants and hotels closed down, we lost that literally overnight within 24 hours. And we really didn't know what we were going to do. So we had a couple of weeks off, as everybody did here. The positive outcome was it gave us a chance to look at the business and look at other businesses and saw, well, what's working there? What could we do better? What would be beneficial? How could we turn the business around? You know, stop it from being such a small little company, and how could we take it to the next level? So lockdown for me, although very terrible, something positive came out of it. But we added lots of different stuff to the range. So we added garlic mayonnaise to the range, which turned out to be one of the best selling products that we've had in years.
I saw on Instagram in a garlic mayo suit.
Well, I'm not too I'm not too proud to get out there and sell the product myself. So Aldi, who we just won the contract with for a year, said, look, you need to advertise the product, and everybody else was doing photographs of themselves outside the store or whatever. And I thought, look, I can't do that. That's not me. So Claire said, well, look, we'll dress you up as a giant bottle of garlic mayonnaise. Where we didn't ask permission, so the staff in the store were looking at us, thinking these people have lost their head.
Yeah, you must have done something to her to convince you to do that.
In fairness, people think I'm the bad one, but she's a little bit nuts as well. So we're always thinking outside the box to how can we stand out, you know, and that's what it's always been about, whether it be the innovative flavours that we create or the traditionalist, you know, that we still fill the jars by hand, like I said, stuff that makes us a little bit different. So, you know, even our stand, if you ever see it at one of the festivals or on our pictures, you'll see we've all the jars and all behind us like an old style sweet shop. So although it's all filled with quirky flavours, it has that sort of traditional look to it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, you know.
For sure. And you have that traditional feel to it with innovation as well. And Ireland's food culture is booming at the moment. You see some incredible brands just revolutionizing the way the Irish kind of perceive food as well. And you just recently got nominated for a Blast and Heron Award, which is incredible.
Looking forward to that.
Unbelievable. So we'll have our fingers crossed for you tomorrow now. So looking forward to seeing how that goes. But I want you to talk about how the Irish food culture has kind of shaped the way you guys are perceived.
We're not afraid to get out there. So like we did over 40 shows last year here in Ireland that we travelled around to the four corners of this country. And we literally stand and sell our product and meet the people. And that's a great way to test new products because customers aren't shy about telling you if they like something or don't like something. You
Yeah.
get to talk to other food producers, and the food producers here in Ireland are amazing. Now, we all know each other, majority of us, because we're all on tour together throughout the summer doing the same shows and festivals. So we get to talk to each other, we get to talk about stores, we get to talk about ingredients. They tell me what they're doing, I tell them what we're doing, and we get to swap, distributors and stuff like that. So they were the sort of things that the food production here in Ireland has really changed. The quality of food is amazing, very different to how it was when I started off as a chef 30 odd years ago. But food in Ireland, and like one of the best things that I love, we're doing a show at Tullamore or something, and I have a 12-year-old who comes up to me and knows everything about pesto and asks me what type of oil am I using.
Amazing.
We don't have nuts or cheese in ours. And I remember this little girl saying to me, "Why don't you put the nuts in it?" And I said, "Look, we just don't do it. We're trying to make something that's a little bit different. All of our products are either gluten-free or dairy-free or nut-free, so I can't have it in our kitchen at all. So we keep away from all that sort of stuff." Like, literally, I was talking to this kid for about 12 minutes or more about pesto. And I just thought, when I was 12, nobody knew what pesto was. It wasn't something, but they even know down to the type of oil that you use. Why do you use that oil? Why don't you use a different oil like somebody else? And I said it's about the flavour, and they'd ask me all about it. For me, that shows you how the food culture in Ireland is really changing. When you can have kids coming up to you and know everything about what's supposed to be in a jam or a chutney, what spices are you using, what can I use that with? And you have these little kids saying, "Oh, I have that on my sandwich going to school for lunch," and they're telling me what they're sort of, I'm having a brie and pancetta and your chutney or something, and I'm going, "What? How old are you?" And
Kids
they're
these
so
days.
amazed about food and they know all about breads and everything else. And for me, that shows you how the food culture in Ireland is really changing.
For sure, and I think things like the Super Value Food Academy, Little Aldi's, have really done an incredible job of highlighting and promoting Irish food, which is kind of obviously it resonates with kids as well, which they're learning better quality foods, more innovative and flavors, and exposing them to more diverse flavor ranges as well.
Yeah.
So
For us, Super Value were the fourth ones that had the Food Academy, which gives all small producers a chance. And that gives you
yeah,
the basics of what you need to do to supply to a supermarket. So it
yeah,
teaches you everything you need to know. And like some people think that, it's as easy as, making a product and sticking it on a shelf and that's going to sell. But in reality, that's not what happens. There's a whole thing behind that. You have to have the right space. You need to be on the right shelf. You need to have the right packaging, and Super Value and the Food Academy will give you that. And then the next level up from that is to kickstart with Little or grow with Aldi, which we're now part of, which then takes you to a whole different level of doing things. But if I didn't have that original sort of tester with Super Value, I wouldn't have known how a Super Value worked or how any supermarket would have worked or what stores really need from you to make your product sell.
yeah.
So it gave us that basis and the sort of foundation of what we needed to grow the business along the way to be part of those programs.
And we have a lot of people that are starting off in the food business that are listening to this program. Okay, so I want you to talk a bit because I know the programs, the Aldis, the Lidls, and the Super Value. I want you to talk about your experiences with them, and why you would encourage people to pursue them. Because some people will sit on the fence like, "Oh, I'm not ready for them just yet. I'm not sure." So, what has been your experience, and what would you say to
Yeah,
people?
what I would say for us, one of the best things that we ever did is go to your local enterprise board.
Mm,
So for us, the enterprise board has been part of our business all the way from the very beginning, believe it or not. Even when we were operating from the house, and we now have a lovely kitchen here in Cavan. We have a production kitchen, but still made the same, as I said. But
yeah,
the enterprise board, they will stress test the business idea. So you can go to them and say to them, "Look, I have an idea for a product," and they will stress test it for you, and they'll get people to look at your business plan or help you write a business plan in the first place and really drill down to stop you making the mistakes of the likes of me, what I did at the very beginning. There was lots of things that we did wrong at the very beginning that I wish if somebody had said to me, "Look, there's things that you can't account for. Distribution. It's great if you're selling to 10 stores, but what happens then when you try to sell, like we're based here in Cavan, what happens when you want to sell to Skibbereen and Cork, or you want to
yeah,
sell to Dingle? How do you get that product there? Or to Dublin? You don't realise that there's actually a cost involved in that. So then you have got distribution costs, and then there'd be other hidden costs that you don't know about. We set up a website and you think, "Oh yeah, that's great, have a website now," but then you have to maintain that website. You have to have people there who are looking after that website for you. And so there's lots of pitfalls along the way. And if you'd have known that at the very beginning, that would have really helped. But the likes of your enterprise board are the perfect people to give you that sort of information now. But Food Academy, as I said, for the very beginning for us, we already had, about 30 super values by the time we had actually entered Food Academy. And actually we went nationwide with Super Value and Food Academy the day we were on the TV show Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
But for us, it was a great experience because, as I said, it gave us the foundation of what needed to be on the shelf. Because it's very easy for somebody to create something that's just blends into the background. So you need something to stand out. You have to find a way for your product to stand out on that shelf. Like, particularly for us, the jam oil in particular is littered with 30 or 40 different companies that are there. So what makes you stand out? And for us, it was always to try and keep that sort of farmers market look about the product, but yet sophisticated enough for people to believe that you made that product on the supermarket shelf, that you belonged there. So it was just about trying to make us stand out, that little bit different. So we have our logo on it, we have our picture on it, so we tell our story as part of it. And they were some of the skills that we learned as part of Food Academy, how to keep that Irishness about our product.
Yeah, and it's such an incredible asset that we have in Ireland at the moment as well, And then obviously talking about going for the Dragon's Den stuff, we have these opportunities, but the main thing is you have to put yourself out there. If you have a product, you have to apply for this stuff. You don't know what's going to be at the other end of it. You're going to either learn something or gain something, So it's really going to help create that brand identity for you.
Yeah, and I would say to anybody out there who has a food idea, come to a local farmers market, see what's out there, see what's working. Because we would have people come to, like the enterprise board would send people to myself and Claire here, and they would say, look, I have an idea. What do you think, or where do you think I might fit in? And we can give them the small bit of knowledge that we have. But like, if you actually come along and talk to the food producers at any of the food shows throughout the country, and that applies to anywhere in the world really, the food producers are always happy to talk to you about the product that they make, what's working for them, what doesn't work for them. And that will give you an idea, even if you're in a completely different product range altogether. So it goes to show you, everybody's willing to help each other out there, but have a look and have a go and stress test it and see, is there a slot in the market? Because like here in Ireland, every small town has a jam producer. So like, I can't be worried about every small jam producer in the country. I do what we do, and we do it to the best that we possibly can. So I would say to anybody out there, if you have a food idea, go for it. Take it on, grab the bull by the horns, and really go for it.
100%. I back that thoroughly, because food is so interesting because it's got such little barriers to entry in a sense, because you can set up a market stall tomorrow. You can work in your kitchen overnight and set up a market stall tomorrow and you have a product. It's not like tech, or it's not like any other software or anything like that, which takes months and years. With food is a different story. And because the community is so strong, you can taste test. People will tell you straight up if it's good, if it's not.
Yeah.
Your friends might not, but like the older crowd that are there will try it. They'll be like, no, this isn't good at all. So you can refine it from there. So these assets that we have are really important. And from there, you've had a great week, a great couple of weeks. You've got the Blast in the Heron tomorrow, and you've just launched with Aldi there. If you'd like to talk a bit about the Aldi contract.
Back in May, 27 Irish producers got a chance to put their products into all the Aldis in Ireland, which was 161 at that time. It's now 162.
Amazing.
And out of those 27 producers, 3 producers won a contract for a year. So that means that every 6 weeks or so that we're back in store. And it's been amazing for our business. It's something that's really going to, help keep the doors open if nothing else, but it brings our product to people who've never met Morans before. People think that people shop in every supermarket. They don't really. They might shop in 2, maybe 3. So you're bringing our brand to a whole new audience that never knew us before. And one of the best things is when, for us, people are going, oh, this Moran's garlic mayonnaise, I love this. What else do they do? So they come to our website, moransmegajam.ie, and they will buy something else. So they'll come along and they'll see what other sauces, ketchups and barbecue sauces and chili sauce and taco or wherever the jams are that we have on season at the moment, and they will buy that as well. And then they're telling everybody else, and that was one of the things that always amazed us, that the people who are growing for us tells everybody, that's my beetroot, that's my strawberries, that's my raspberries. And they're going, oh, that's Mary down the road, strawberries are in that, or James's rhubarb or beetroot, whatever it is. and that's in that jar. And so that helps us to grow our business all the time, you know. We've had a very busy couple of weeks, as you said, with the whole Aldi thing. We've blasted the Heron this week, and please God, we're going to win that one. But we launched in the States there now as well recently with a Taste from Home Foods, and they took 3 of our products and is now available all across the States, which for me was one of the, like, once we decided that this was going to be a business, I always had it in my head, we're going to get to America, we're going to be, you know, one of those companies. But we also export to Finland, Italy and Australia. And the States thing is one of those ones that it was in me that we wanted to do that. You know, I suppose every small producer sees America as this huge, big market. And if you could only get a tiny percentage of that, plus we have a huge expat out there. So the amount of Irish people, as you know, in the
Of course.
States who want a little taste of home, we're happy to give it to them. So for me, that's one of the proudest things that I have at the moment recently. I have to be honest and say it was one of the ones that I was really chuffed about.
Amazing, and I'm absolutely delighted to hear that as well. Because some people may or may not know, this podcast was started with that premise of getting and helping Irish food entrepreneurs get into America to see what's out there as well. And we have a lot of American listeners to this as well. So, you know, the Irish food scene is booming right now, and the American market is always there for us to take and go after. So it's such an incredible opportunity. I'm here in Brooklyn, which is half the population of Ireland. So, and that's just a small part of a borough in New York. There's 360 odd million people in America. So it's an incredible market opportunity, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. And a lot of food people that start off in food, they never really think of exporting to the UK and America, but it's just got such an opportunity for you. So it's fantastic to hear that that's now on your roadmap
Yeah,
for expansion.
we knew that the growth in our business was going to be getting off the island of Ireland, you know. And as fairness, I love our island. But
Yeah,
it's a very small place, really. And if for anybody to be able to grow their business, you have to get out there and get to other markets. And you have the likes of Board B out there at the moment who've been a godsend to us and helping to give us the assets that we needed to be able to export. Like, so we didn't realize we speak the same language, but yet we
yeah,
had to change all our labels, you know, because the legislation is different in the States.
yeah,
And it was the same for Australia as well. It didn't have to change it for the EU countries. We were able to get away with there. But we had to change our labels and stuff. And having Board B and stuff like that in the background that were able to, you know, advise and help you out, even with the FDA stuff. Like,
yeah,
you know, we were going, FDA, what is this? And you were like, all right, now we know what we have to do. And that's no mean feat either for any business to get FDA approval. It's not an easy process. So we were chuffed then when we were able to access people there that be able to help us. But as I said, like the likes of Board B and the Enterprise Board were behind us all the way and were able to give us the tools that we needed to be able to export. And now to help us to grow, that will be the next thing. You know, so obviously
incredible.
we want to get it out there as much as we possibly can.
And I'm looking forward to seeing it boom across America now. I'll be when you guys are here. Let me know if you're when you're in New York. You know, we can meet up and we
We
can
are planning to pop
get.
across next year. There's a couple of shows that our distributor wants us to do. So the plan is for us to come across and actually do a couple of shows. So people in the States will get a chance to meet Mr. and Mrs. Moran. They might actually
Amazing.
get to meet, I don't know who the biggest jam producer is in the States, but in Ireland we would have, say, Folan's or the UK ones like Chippers. Nobody ever gets to meet Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah,
Chippers, you know, but they do get to meet Mr. and Mrs. Moran, and we stand there. We'll be happy to talk about our product and what goes into it and why we're so passionate about what we do.
amazing. What are the flavors that you said you had 3 flavors, right? What
Yeah,
are the
so
flavors you're looking?
tastefromhomefoods.com is the name of the website. And they
Mhm.
take our blackcurrant and Guinness, our Irish whiskey marmalade made with Jameson whiskey.
Unreal.
And we have a rhubarb and ginger. So that's one of the traditional ones in there. So, you know, we like to do things a little bit different, as we always say. And the whiskey marmalade is made with sweet orange. So it's not like the traditional bitter. Like I used to think I didn't like marmalade because it was that bitter stuff with big chunks. But this
Yeah,
is the sort of smooth, made with a Navelina orange. So it's just more like an orange jam with whiskey added into it.
amazing.
So it's really good and very, very tasty. So those 3 now we thought we'll start off with those and see what happens. And it looks like that they're going to add more products to their range now as well out there because it's selling so well. So it
Incredible.
was one of the best things that's ever happened for us.
Oh, I'm delighted for you, Kieran. I really
Oh,
am. And
thank you.
to see the opportunity for people and Irish producers doing such a great job, Mrs. and Mr. Moore, and taking on the States. If I had said that to you 15 years ago, it may have been a different story. But now it's all coming full circle now, and it's an incredible opportunity for you guys. And I was speaking to another guest, which you know, Nick from Nutty Delights. He speaks very highly of you guys. and he pivoted during COVID and focused on e-commerce now. I wanted to kind of touch on that because there is a market there. E-commerce is booming, obviously shipping and delivery to doors. Some people not even going to supermarkets now. So where do you guys fit in with the
Yeah.
e-commerce side of
Well,
things?
believe it or not, I was actually against us having a website in the very beginning because I thought, who in their right mind is buying jam off a website? And so Claire and Gavin Duffy from Dragon's Den said at the time, look, we're going to be on the TV show. You have to have a website. It's just
Yeah,
vital. And as I said, I was completely wrong. It turns out everybody in Ireland, in particular, we ship all over Ireland here. We use distributors for the other countries. We don't ship outside of Ireland through our website. And I was completely wrong. People do like to buy online. They will
yeah,
buy at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you'll come get up in the morning and you'll check your emails, and you'll have somebody after buying 20 jars of whatever. And you're thinking,
exactly.
what in the name of God? But people do it, and our shopping habits have changed, particularly through lockdown. We had a website during lockdown that wasn't great. We then partnered with a local company here called Opus, who redesigned our website there last year, and the difference in sales that has meant for our business. So it's a huge percentage of our business now is all done online. But what's great for me is it means that I can make up, if I get something like 10 kilos of damsons, which don't grow anywhere else in the world here particularly here in Ireland, they need a cold climate. So if they start to grow from, say, Sligo, Cavan, Monaghan, Dunloud, across that straight line, and if you go further south, they don't grow. So, but somebody might come to me and say, look, I've 50 kilos of this. I can make something up of it, make 100 jars, put them up on the website, and when they're gone, they're gone. So our customers get something that's a little bit different that they're not going to get in the supermarket. Or plums, like we got a load of plums there recently, and so we made two varieties. We made plain plum, which people could use then for their Christmas cakes, and I made a Caribbean plum, so we added dark rum to it,
Very
um,
nice.
and it just gave a completely different flavour. But again, we were able to sell it through the website. It wasn't something that somebody was necessarily going to pick up on a supermarket shelf, like strawberry and bubblegum. Although that's one that we do make, and we actually don't use any real bubblegum. We actually use a bit of chefy magic.
Thinking how that would work.
Yeah, we actually use a blend of fruit and vegetable juice that makes the smell of bubblegum, which tricks your palate to taste something that's not really there. So
Amazing.
that's how it works. So we're
Yeah.
able to put the likes of that up on our website where people can go, oh yeah, that's something a little bit different, or I want to buy a present for somebody. That's exactly the sort of present that they would like. And they can buy it and we would have it shipped to them within 48 hours. And it's been amazing for our business, really and truly. Going online has been one of the best things that we ever did. I'm happy to say I was wrong when I thought who wants to buy jam online. Turns out everybody does.
It turns out, yeah, and that's a lot of people. I would have been the same skeptical a couple of years ago, but as you said, our buying habits have changed in the last couple of 4 or 5 years. Amazon obviously has completely shaped the game, especially over here in America.
Yeah,
You can get anything delivered to your door tomorrow,
yeah,
So to not have it is just a wasted opportunity because the website is always going to be there, and if as you're sleeping from 10 till 6 in the morning or
yeah.
whatever it is and the orders are coming in whilst you're asleep, that's invaluable. So it's a great opportunity to increase your sales and just get exposed to different markets, either be anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and a combination of that and social media working side by side, so that we would advertise a lot on social media and we would be putting out the sort of content. People would see us making our product there. They'd see me pouring a full bottle of whiskey into a pot, or they'll see the other people who are supplying my business on their social media. And that's the sort of thing that pops up in the middle of the night when people are scrolling, and then that's what makes them then obviously go to our shop. So it's the two of those two things working hand in hand. It works perfectly together for us to, increase sales.
Amazing. Yeah, no, it has to be there for anyone listening. Get online as early as possible. I think, even to have some form of presence. And if you are getting orders through, you can start updating and improving the site as well from
And if
there.
you're
So,
here in Ireland, there's actually a grant from the Enterprise Board that will actually
yeah.
cover 50% of it. So do you have a trading online voucher which will cover, 50% of the cost of your website. So it means that you're not investing everything of your own. You get a bit of state funding there as well to help out.
Yeah, it really does. Local enterprise office grants for online trading vouchers really, really beneficial. So anyone look into it, build on your website. So I wanted to talk a small bit more, Kieran, about challenges you face, right? What are some of the challenges you face? Because obviously you've had COVID, and you've been through all sorts of different economic turmoils in Ireland and across Europe, and maybe even Brexit had an effect. So what has been the most challenging aspect for yourself since you started?
COVID and Brexit were actually good for my business because it meant
Okay.
more people were cooking at home, and they were ordering online. So that part of it, the business,
Yeah.
we done well selling that way. Brexit for me, in some ways, caused a hindrance, but in another way, it was good for business for the simple reason that the UK products couldn't get onto the Irish shelves as easily.
Of
They
course.
were being held up in customs. So it meant that there was gaps in the supermarket shelves. And so obviously the supermarkets came to the Irish producers and said, look, we want them gaps filled. So fill them now.
Mm.
And so that was great. And so we only import two things. We import glass and we import sugar because it was two things that we couldn't get here in Ireland. We don't grow sugar here in Ireland anymore. We got rid of that a long time ago. The glass jar that we use, we couldn't source it here in Ireland. So I had to source it from Germany. It disappoints me that I couldn't get our glass jar here. I'd love to be able to have sugar and glass, but we couldn't. So the Brexit thing made that a little bit easier for us to sell more product. So that part of it
Mm.
was good. But transport has been difficult. Sourcing sugar and glass and the costs of such things. Like the Ukraine war, who knew that Ukraine produced so much or had such an influence on gas, which you need to make
Yeah.
glass,
Yeah.
or gas that you need to make sugar? You can't just make sugar at home, it's made in major factories. So those two things really were the most difficult times that we've had in the business because the price of sugar in particular tripled at one stage.
Wow.
It has come back since. But we were lucky enough that we got heads up. And so our sugar producers said to us, look, the price of this is going to go through the roof. So stockpile as much as you can. And so we did. So like literally every part of this building had bags of sugar being stored up just so that we could make sure that we could still give the value to the customer that we had because we didn't want to turn around and triple the price of a jar of jam because people
Yeah. Of
have it in their
course.
head how much something is worth and you can't go past that. That would put you out of business. The weather in Ireland this year and for the last few years has been crazy. So, like for instance, we had no beetroot during the summer. We just couldn't get it. First of all, the ground was too wet. They couldn't plant it. Then they couldn't get it. When they did get it planted, they couldn't get it out of the ground. Then it was too dry, so the beetroot wouldn't grow. And now, at the last 3 weeks, we are inundated with beetroot. We've so much beetroot now. But lucky enough, um, like our chutneys last for a year and a half. So
Yeah.
once we make them, we don't use any artificial flavorings or preservatives in ours. So we keep it completely natural. But a year and a half is the shelf life on a jar. So it's very handy for me now to make as much as I possibly can, and we will sell it going forward. And hopefully we'll be able to manage that going along. But like soft fruits and stuff like that as well, it's been tough. Like the price of raspberries last year, like tripled in price. And at one time we were buying raspberries about 5 years ago for about €2 a kilo. Last year they were around €16 a kilo. So
Wow.
that shows you, and so
Yeah.
there's no point in me making jam or something that I'm not going to make money out of. At the end of the day, this is a business and we have to make
Mm.
money. I have staff here who have mortgages to pay, have kids to feed. So it's my job to make sure that those people get paid every week. They're the sort of things that have been a little bit difficult for us, but we've sailed through it. We've managed to, you know, track our way through, and customers have been very loyal and they understand if something's not in season, we don't make it. If it sells out because it's not in season, they understand that. Or if the cost of something goes through the roof, that we're going to stop making it. And then they go, when it is back in season, they will buy 5 or 6 jars and they stockpile it themselves. So they're the sort of things that's been a little bit difficult along the last couple of years in particular. So as I said, some of it's been good, some of it not so good. But we've managed to work our way through it and find solutions. There's solutions to everything. Even as I said, getting into America, there was problems there getting into America. We had to get
Yeah.
FDA approval. We had to change labels, but there's ways around it. You work at it and you find a solution.
And I think that's a true testament to the job that you're doing, Kieran, as well. Like to be able to sail through a challenge. For anyone listening, I think that's incredibly inspirational that you don't get knocked down for every time you get hit. You got to keep bouncing back, and your product speaks for itself. Now you have to do the work by dodging challenges and moving around and adapting to the market as well.
And
And
the fact that I don't sleep helps as well.
that helps as well. Insomniacs really make the world go around, as they
Yeah.
say. But what I wanted to talk about a small bit is you've got such a fantastic ethos principle for the company in the sense of you use everything that is in season and everything. And this is a challenge that a lot of producers that I know come across. So when you're scaling up, okay, let's say you land in America, right?
Yeah.
You hit the American dream, you're serving 360 million people. How do you intend on keeping the ethos of Moran's Jams and so it doesn't just become the Kellogg's of the world, who don't really care about the people.
But again, see, it comes back to our ethos about the growers. So, like, the best part of my job is going out and meeting the producers who grow amounts. Now, we are still getting more and more people every single year, and the
Mm,
guys who are growing for us are expanding every year on year on year. So eventually, that will become a major problem for us. There will come a time when we can't produce anymore here in Ireland, but hopefully that won't be for another 15 or 20 years. It'll take a long time before that'll happen. It's a relationship with the growers, and I don't care where those growers come from. If they're passionate about what they're doing, if they're growing the best produce that they can, I don't know. Eventually, am I going to have to import raspberries from Britain or France or something? Hopefully, it won't ever come to that. That we'll still be able to produce great produce here in Ireland. But if
yeah.
I do, then we will use the same methodology that we use that we do here. I'll go and I'll meet the growers and I'll go meet the farmers, and if they're growing and producing in the same way that we believe and giving me a great produce, well then we'll add them into our family. But for here in Ireland, as I said, we're taking on more and more growers every single year. Those people are adding more and more. The ones we had already are adding more and more. So they're planting more each year and growing with us. And so that'll continue on. And that's creating employment, which is secondary to what we're already doing. So we have like staff here ourselves. But I also have a responsibility to those growers who are planting stuff. So I can't turn around to those people who planted a field of beetroot last year and say, I'm not going to buy it this year. We will definitely buy it. Because
Yeah.
that's originally how we started. We had some people who said, if I grow for you, will you buy it all? And I had to take a chance and say, yeah, and pray to God that we would actually be able to sell it to somebody
Yeah.
then once we took it in. But lucky enough, we've never been stung because we always sell more than I can actually, than we can source. So we're always waiting on people to give me more and more produce, and when it's in season, we make as much as we possibly can. But that does lead to shortcomings. There is time of year when we won't have marmalade, or I won't have gooseberry jam, or, plums or damsons. It just won't be there. But customers have to realize if you're selling with the seasons, then that's going to happen. Don't come to me asking me to give you damson jam next summer because they're just not in season. We'll have already sold it by Christmas. That's just part of it. But that's where we envision it going. And it is going to be a struggle as we grow more and more. But it's a challenge that we're ready to meet.
And you touched a small bit there on teams, right? So you have staff, they have mortgages, all this type of stuff. But I saw recently there on LinkedIn that you're looking for what was the role
I'm
again?
looking for another chef's assistant. So I need
Another
somebody
chef
else there who can help me make the jam. Um,
Fantastic.
Yeah, and so like everybody here is a family and we're all part of the process. Like it doesn't just come down to myself and Claire making a product and then coming in and saying to the staff, make that. That doesn't
Yeah.
happen. Like what we do is when we go out there, when we're making something, everybody tastes it. Before we send
Mm,
that, like we have people out there who does sampling for us. But before it even gets to that, every single member of staff here has an input into the products that we make.
love
If
that.
they feel that it's theirs as much as us. I laugh because the staff, if they're in the supermarket and they see your stuff that's not straight, they all straighten it. They'll go in and they'll straighten the aisles and all. Where in certain companies, people just wouldn't care, but they feel that they're part of it, and that's very important. Like our team here is our family. They really truly are. They're part of our little Moran's Mega Jam family here. And that includes our growers that are out there as well. It's so important.
It's amazing. So, like some of the people that have been on the show, they mentioned and talk about community is so important, especially nowadays where people are somewhat getting more disconnected from the world in the sense brands are really going after creating community. And that sounds exactly what you guys are trying to build there from your teams to your customers as well.
Yeah, then like when we send out samples, like we would often through social media, people will often become samplers for us or tasters. And so if I have an idea for a product and we'd send it out, but I have to change those people around because if you're giving somebody something for free, they feel that they have to sort of go, oh yeah, that's lovely, and that's not what I want. I want somebody to say, I don't like this. I think that
Yeah.
needs to be sharper. I need that need might need to be, wherever the flavoring is, that needs to be more prominent. And so we do send out those samples to people, and then they'd send us back their feedback.
You send them to the US, you send them to New York.
Yeah, I'm going to start. We'll have to.
I volunteer for that
Thanks
job.
very much. We'll make sure to look after you so when we're over.
No, that's great. I love that you're bringing in the community, that you're getting the honest feedback from people, and if when a customer is walking by, they see the product, it's like, oh, I actually was one of the first people to taste that product when they
That's it.
first developed the recipe, which is which is an incredible way to do things, an incredible way to do business as
And again,
well.
they
So
feel that they own a piece of the brand,
yeah,
and for me, that's important because again, like we would have people, you were saying originally about Aldi recently, and we would
yeah,
have people sending me photographs of the stock in wherever their local store was, and they were after straightening the product for me. They moved other stuff out of the way, they straightened my product because they felt that they know us, do you know that way? And that they're
yeah.
part of the brand. So that's a great way for, any company to have customers out there who are prepared to do that. I find it, I admire those people.
It does. It's amazing to be able to connect with people, even from a food perspective, and actually it resonates so much with them. So honestly, Kieran, we can talk all day about the products and everything like that because the products you're putting out are absolutely amazing and
Oh,
so
thank you.
innovative. So I wanted to talk a small bit more because people listen to podcasts, mainly entrepreneur podcasts, because they're interested in self-development. For yourself now, you're such an innovative character, and I love the recipes. So what does self-development mean to you, and how do you kind of incorporate it into your business?
Oh God, lately I've taken up getting fit. It helps me an
Yeah,
awful lot.
never too late to get fit.
No, I had got very heavy up until last June or so. I put on an awful lot of weight, and it doesn't look good if you're really big selling sugar to people when you're selling jam. But I do find for me to de-stress, I go to the gym, and I find there's
Mm,
no better way for me to de-stress than going there, turning my phone off, and switching off for a while. I find it does me mental capacity. It does me a world of good, and sometimes I'll solve problems when I'm trying not to think about work.
yeah,
And sometimes that happens. I'm a big gamer as well. I play Fortnite quite a lot with my brother and my nephews. And sometimes, again, that switching off for a little while is one of the most important things I think you have to be able to do. You have to be able to take a step back from the business and look at things in a different way and maybe find an outlet because work can be all consuming. Like for a long time myself and Claire would be consumed with this business, and even like we were away last week in Kilkenny. I had a large birthday last week, and we went away to Kilkenny and we went out for a nice meal, and it was nice to do that sort of stuff together. Well, it wasn't about work, but yet food was still involved in it, so you're constantly developing that all the time. So that there's some of the things I do to keep me head on straight and to sort of focus a little bit differently in the way that maybe not everybody can, because you need to step away. That's one of the best things I think anybody can do, is step away from the business. People back when I was a chef, I would work 7 days a week. I'd often work 16 hours a day, and my boss turned around to me and said, "Look, you're going to burn yourself out.
yeah,
You need to take at least one day away from the restaurant, or you're going to, you're no use to me. You're going to stop making me money." So, you have to do that. You have to have a day where you stop working, turn it off for a little while, give your head a space, and sometimes that's where the best inspiration will come. Or you'll think, actually, do you know what? This is where I need to focus. You know, that's really what works for us.
the majority of entrepreneurs that I know have come up with their best ideas like in the gym, on a run, on a walk, or even at a dinner where they've completely removed themselves from the business. So because when you're so ingrained in the business, you can't really think outside that box. And
Yeah,
it's really, really beneficial for anyone that's listening that when you are doing 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, to take those couple of days, either or a couple of hours a day to meditate, read a book, whatever
yeah.
works for you, because that's when divine inspiration kind of strikes as well.
That's it. And when you're in the trenches, it's very hard to see over that wall. So you do definitely need to take a break. And as I said, playing Fortnite does me a world of good because it gives me young people to talk to. Young nephews, I tell you, will fairly put you straight when they like something or don't like something or think. They actually have often said to me, "Why don't you do this, Kieran? Why don't you sell to
Mm.
whoever?" And I'm talking to an 8-year-old, and he's telling me what to do. So like that's where sometimes the best inspiration can come from, offbeat things like just going talking to different people, again talking to the food producers here in Cavan. In particular, we have a great community. There's a thing called Created in Cavan, and we all the food producers are all connected in that, and sometimes that helps as well. We have lots of social outings, and some of them are sort of businessy events as well. I'm actually going to one tonight, and but again you're sort of talking to the other food producers out there, and sometimes that little bit of downtime and talking to people in a different way, that all helps with the mental brain space as well.
For sure, for sure. And inspiration leads to success. So I wanted to ask you, Kieran, when it comes to success, what does it mean to you? Because everyone has their own definition of it. You started off in the farmers markets, and now you're selling into Aldi, into huge supermarkets and America. So what does success mean to you?
Like, I'm very honoured to win all the awards and stuff that we've got. I've been
Mhm.
chuffed with that. Even doing the TV stuff that I get to do, or going out and doing cooking demos across the country. I'm very proud of that stuff. But the one thing that I'm actually proudest of that really makes me feel like just successful is when somebody takes me product and said, that's just like me mammy made or me granny made. For me and Claire, I can honestly tell you that's the best feeling ever. And that's where I judge success. When somebody says to me, that's, what my granny made, or you gave me a memory that, I haven't had for years because I tasted something original in your product. To me, that's success. The money and all is great. I'm not going to say that it's not. I'd be lying. Or if I'd said that the awards weren't great, they are great. But it's those little things that really humble you. And to me, that's where success is. Somebody, you can give a memory to somebody that way. That's really where we find success.
And connecting with people through food is such a powerful influence as well. I
It
always
really
find
is.
that you can change someone's day.
Yeah.
They could be having the worst day and then they come to you, they try your product, and you've just given them a moment in time which they've really enjoyed. You're part of birthdays, you're part of all different types of celebrations, weddings, all sorts. So you're actually making an influence on other people's lives. And
Yeah.
that I think is an incredible feeling and a
It really is.
motivator.
Yeah.
So
One of the best feelings ever.
for sure, for sure. That's a great answer. I love that. So we'll wrap up now in a few
Yeah.
minutes now. So I wanted to talk about people in the industry who are doing a fantastic job, Kieran. Okay, so
Yeah.
the Irish food scene is it's seen as booming right now. So
Yeah.
who do you think is doing a fantastic job?
One of my favorite people who looks after me. So if I don't know something and I need to know, there's a company down the road from me called Anya's Chocolates, and there's a woman called Anne Rudden who runs Anya's Chocolates. And I remember at the very beginning, her telling me, don't do this, don't don't pay them that. You need to do this.
Yeah,
And when I don't need to know something, she is the one person who I know I can ring. If I pick up the phone now and ring her, she might not answer me straight away, but she'll come back to me later on tonight and say, Kieran, look, there you go, there's the answer. This is what I did. Um, there's another company here in Cavan as well who I'm good friends with called Barry John Sausages. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. Barry makes quirky jams and sausages and actually uses some of our products in his sausages to flavour them.
I
Or one of
came
the
across them years ago now. I haven't tried them in a couple of years, but I
Yeah,
remember being blown away by some of the
yeah,
flavor
bacon and
profiles.
cabbage and chocolate orange sausages. But
Yeah,
Jerry from Ice Cream Treats has been one of the great success stories here in Cavan. So Ice Cream Treats in particular are now available in McDonald's in the UK. They're selling, all across Ireland. They own the Mood brand as well as part of Ice Cream Treats. And
yeah.
like Jerry has been very inspirational to us. He took his company from something very, very small to a major company now exporting. So like they're just three of the Irish food producers I can think of off the top of my head who, whenever I need to know something, they're the sort of people who I can ring and bounce ideas off or avoid pitfalls because they're much bigger than me. So, and they're happy to still help me, which is brilliant as well. So, having people like that in your corner really helps you.
Fantastic. And you gave a shout out to three Cavan companies as well. I completely forgot Mood was from Cavan as well, because being in the ice cream industry, they were fantastic. And I always looked at them as a great standard to keep as well. So it's fantastic that you're able to keep a couple of local brands there. So I'll give them a shout out there at the end of this. But
Thanks so
lastly,
much.
Kieran, okay. So when did you start off? 2010?
In 2010.
Okay, so you're now 14 years in business.
Yeah.
Okay, so over the 14 years, I'm sure you've learned more than most people. Okay, so what would be one piece of advice you would have given Kieran 14 years ago?
Drill down on the numbers. Make sure you know how much everything is going to cost you and know the value of your product. So, for instance, people have an idea in their head of how much something is.
Mm,
So I can understand that people are never going to pay €10 for a jar of jam. But if it's something else, they have a value, they have a number in their head, and you can't go past that. So we actually worked backwards. So we figured out what's the maximum we can get for our product, and we worked backwards. Rather than saying, well, look, this is how much it cost me to make. I then need 10% for a distributor. I need to make 30% margin. I need this for the overheads, whatever it was. We figured out what was going to be the maximum we could get from that and then found a way to make money out of it. So I would say to anybody out there, drill down on the numbers. Check, you know, it doesn't hurt to have somebody out there looking at your numbers for you. It might
Yeah,
cost you a few quid in the very beginning, but it will save
worth
you
it.
a lot of money further along the line. You know, having a
Mm,
good accountant there. Or I have what's called a Carmel. I can hear her outside my office now because she's waiting to get back in here. She chases the money. That's our job. So if somebody owes me money, Carmel goes and she gets the money from people. She rings up and says, we need to be paid. I don't know how many successful producers, food producers in particular, I know, who sunk not because they couldn't sell, but because
yeah,
they didn't chase the money. You have to make sure the money is coming in as quick as it's going out. So it all comes down to the numbers. Dig down on those numbers. Make sure you know exactly how much stuff is costing you, and have somebody helping you to chase the money, whether it's your accountant or have a bookkeeper or somebody out there to help you with the numbers. That's really what it comes down to. And you have to have passion. So if you're
that's
passionate about the product, people
yeah.
will buy from you. But it comes down to making sure that it makes it's viable sense to make it into a business.
So passion and drill down your numbers. Those are
Passion and drill down your numbers.
that's an MBA right there for any food entrepreneur starting off. So fantastic piece of advice for anyone starting off. So Kieran, look, we could talk all day, and I'm
Thank you
sure
very
knowing
much.
yourself and myself, we probably could, but we'll have to leave it there. So really appreciate it. Where can people find out a bit more about yourselves?
Yeah.
And yeah, get the
So
product.
in Ireland, go to moransmegajam.ie. And in the States, if you're looking for three of our products, go to tastefromhomefoods.com and they will supply it with our three jams that's out there at the moment, and hopefully they'll have more. But moransmegajam.ie we have hampers and all of our products on our website, and it's available throughout the whole island of Ireland.
Fantastic, fantastic. And anyone listening, if you do see any Moran's jams on the shelf, make sure to pick up some and get in touch. They are incredible and doing a brilliant job with locally sourced ingredients. And Kieran is a legend, as you guys already know. So, Kieran, thank you so much for
Thank you
jumping
very
on.
much.
Really appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing the next couple of years. And when you get over to the States,
We'll hit you up.
legend, legend. Thank you so much,
Thank-
Kieran. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Cheers. Bye bye. And that's a wrap on today's episode of the Savour Success podcast. I hope you enjoyed hearing Kieran's journey as much as I did. From starting off as a chef to creating bold, innovative jams that are now reaching the international market. Kieran has shown us how powerful the combination of passion, creativity, and persistence truly can be. What really stood out to me was how Kieran continues to push boundaries while staying true to his roots, whether it's through the sourcing of local ingredients or honouring tradition in his process. His ability to take familiar products like jam and turn it into something unique is a testament to the endless possibilities in the food world when you're willing to think outside the box. If Kieran's story inspires you, be sure to check out Moran's Mega Jams. I'll leave a link in the bio. And if you know someone who would love this episode, please don't forget to share it. Your support helps us keep bringing the stories of great food entrepreneurs that are really making an impact to the world. Thanks again for tuning in. Don't miss our next episode where we've got another amazing guest lined up with a story you won't want to miss. Until next time, I've been Kieron Cullen and keep savouring success.